Say it again.
It's been obedient to initial prompting of God's parent.
That's self-control.
It's been obedient to the initial prompting of God's parent.
That's right. And Josie practices self-control.
Hey everyone, it's Katie from Without a Crystal Ball. Welcome back to my channel. It is Tuesday, June 20th, 2023. It's been a very wild few weeks with the Duggars getting exposed constantly. And Michelle Duggar was literally exposed so hard in this docuseries, Shiny Happy People, Duggar Family Secrets. If you follow me on this channel, this will not be new to you, but the clip I just showed to you, which was in the docuseries, not the whole clip, I actually have the whole clip, was Michelle teaching people at the Institute in Basic Life Principles obedience training, which is basically making the child do a command on command with joyful spirits and not complaining, instantly following it. And in order to do this, they use methods of not very nice ways to do things. We'll get into it. The methods used in order to ensure the obedience is what we're going to talk about, and how Michelle made this popular. It wasn't her idea. It was the IBLP through Ann Michael Pearl and all these other horrible leaders that created these ridiculous methods of basically treating your child like a dog and training them to be obedient and silent and quiet and compliant. And Michelle is getting slammed for making this popular, for causing harm to children, for promoting this to parents, and for contributing to the harm of children in the IBLP. So we're going to talk about that. We're also going to talk about how Miss Hilary Spivey, Miss I cannot not get in the middle of something. I am so excited about having clout. Miss I wish my daughter would have been on Counting On because that would have been wonderful. Miss I really wish I would have been on the show because I want to be famous. I hang out with a Duggar because I'm a groupie and I'm an in-law. Hilary Spivey slammed Jill for writing a book and for people not believing James about his dad. It's gross. So let's dive into today's topic. Before we do, can you please do me a big favor and give this video a thumbs up? Also, please subscribe to my channel if you've not yet subscribed by clicking on the subscribe button down below. Make sure to leave a comment if you have something to say. Share the video with your friends. And if you want to get notified, make sure to click on the bell. Blanket training is something we've talked about quite extensively on this channel. The book To Train Up a Child, or To Train Up a Child, written by Debbie and Michael Pearl, was made popular in the early 2000s, late 1999 era, and it was a method of using a glue stick or a rod of some sort and trying to tempt a baby off of a blanket, and then you would smack the baby with the rod on their hand to make sure that they didn't move, and if they did move, you would whack them and they would put them back on the blanket. So this is how they would institute training of children in the IBLP. It was mandated through the IBLP that parents use this method, and they were told that this method would help them obtain optimal children that would be successful and that would be godly, and that these obedient children would be great members of society, and that they were doing these things because it was God mandated, and they would use scripture to say that this is why you have to do this because, spare the rod, spoil the child. So Michelle wrote about blanket training in her book, but she also would do seminars at the IBLP where she would teach mothers how to blanket train and also teach mothers about how to get instant obedience. The clip I showed you is from a seminar from about 2014 when Michelle shared how to get your children to be obedient. The clip is of Josie, and they are doing an obedience training of her at the bathroom. In order to achieve that, Josie has to follow commands. If Josie does not follow commands, Michelle would hit her with a rod. In this book, in this Shiny Happy People, that clip caused everyone outrage because that clip has never been seen before. That clip is right here.
Next one up. True prompting of God's parent.
Say it again.
It's been obedient to initial prompting of God's parent.
That's self-control.
That's true. It's been obedient to the initial prompting of God's parent.
That's right. And Josie practices self-control the first time. She instantly obeys. And she runs and gets on the bed. That's right. Josie is a big girl. She's practicing self-control. Yay, Josie.
It's been obedient to the initial prompting of God's parent.
Can you see how that phrase just they thrive, and we all do. We need that encouragement along life's way. And so
immediately people noticed that Josie's hands were red. They noticed that she was clapping really hard. They noticed that the outside of her hands were red, and they couldn't believe that a parent would do this to a child at potty training. Imagine you're trying to train your kid to go to the bathroom, and to do so you hit them. That's what she was doing with Josie. That clip has sparked outrage. And then in the series, the children that are now adults that spoke out as survivors talked about the horrific experiences they had as children with their parents using this method to basically will them into submission through this process. BEAT, ABUSE, whatever you want to call it. In order to make them comply, they were being hit. And it was a lot. And one woman talked about how it would last for hours. One guy talked about how it was almost a whole day. And in the system, it was done until the child responded in a way that they weren't crying anymore, that they were sorry for what they did, that they showed the right response, that they did whatever the parent wanted. And so if a child couldn't stop crying from the pain, they just kept going. And children were being harmed and hurt. Michael Pearl's book has led to horrible outcomes in children. In the early 2000s, there was multiple children that ended up passing away because of this book. And Michelle made the book popular. She made the process popular. She wrote about it in the Duggar book, 20 Duggars and Counting, or A Love That Multiplies. I can't remember which book. And it's horrible. And finally, people are like holding her accountable for using this technique. The thing about it is that if you support the Duggars in any capacity, any of these moms that have grown up, the daughters, any of them, and the sons, if they are still in this cult, they are using that method today. If they are still in this cult, they are not doing natural parenting, they're not doing attachment parenting, they are using this method. It is a mandated part of the teachings. It's an ordained, God-ministered, ordained practice. And at the church that Ginger and her husband go to, it is also a ordained, like God ordered, you have to do this to your kids. So when you support these families, you have to understand how these kids are so compliant and so obedient is because it's beat into them. These children are scarred, and the adults that were on Shiny Happy People were talking about that lasting damage. The parents still in the system in the Duggar family are still using this. Michelle Duggar still uses this practice in her home to this day. This is going on in their home. It's going on in their friends' homes. It's going on in every home in the IBLP for the most part. I'm so glad that the brave survivors shared their experiences and outlined the horrific aspects of this so that people can finally realize that what they were mandating is not okay. So people can understand what other people have been reporting on for years about this group is true. That children should not be treated like dogs. That children should not be told to be quiet. They value things in children that are not actually good things in children. Obedience, being submissive and quiet. What about being explorative? What about having curiousness? What about having personality? What about being inquisitive? None of that is allowed. None. They make children into robots that are obedient, that do whatever their parents want, and that can be easily manipulated and controlled. Which gets me to the next part. I am so glad for Michelle getting called out for this because it's about damn time. Now, Hilary Spivey, who is the mom of Claire Duggar, who is the mother-in-law of Justin Duggar, was so busy over on Instagram getting into fights with people about James Duggar wishing his dad a happy Father's Day. And she was arguing with them about the buddy system, about Jill raising her siblings, and about Jill writing a book. James Duggar is a boy in a system that's built for boys and men to thrive. It is not a system where women or female children thrive. A woman's goal is to be submissive, to obey, make babies, and do what her husband says. No arguing. Children that are daughters are not properly educated. They're not given any idea that you should go to college. You shouldn't think outside of beyond being a mother or a wife. That's their sole purpose. So when people pointed out the obvious buddy system that everyone knows existed and was not faked and wasn't scripted, they said, I think you mean Happy Father's Day, Jill. Your parents did not raise you. And Hilary said, oh my goodness, I had no idea you were there. Never saw you on the show. Hilary wasn't on the show either. And the person responded, oh, I'm sorry, I've never seen you either, so you clearly know everything. And she said, we've known them for 23 years. Hilary Spivey and her husband worked at the Arkansas Little Rock Center and tried to help counsel Josh. How did that fix? How did that work? Josh Duggar, when he was in prison in county jail, do you know who he called frequently? Rob Spivey, because Rob Spivey is the man that was supposed to fix him from the IBLP. Did Rob fix him? No. But Hilary wants people to know we've known them for 23 years. It's almost like this calling card for clout. When someone pushed back on her and asked about how you would marry off Claire to a man and to a family that has this in their past, that has a son like Josh, she said Claire's marriage has nothing to do with any of that. So Jim Bob protecting Josh, Jim Bob protecting predators, and Jim Bob likely having other children like Josh isn't relevant to Claire's marriage. I think Claire's mom should explain to everyone what happened in Justin's relationship with Claire. I would think that Hilary should let everyone know that Justin was caught kissing another girl from a different family, that Justin really liked that girl, and he didn't really like Claire. But Claire really liked him. Jim Bob didn't like this other girl or her family because he couldn't control them. And because Justin was caught kissing her and caught getting handsy with her, Jim Bob decided he needed to marry Justin off immediately, and he basically brokered this relationship with Claire. Justin didn't want to get married to Claire. Justin wanted to be with the other girl. And during their courtship and their relationship, Justin repeatedly cheated on Claire. Will Hilary ever tell you any of that? No. But she was so happy to marry her child off into this family because it got her clout and attention and status in this cult. It's gross. One of my followers, Brandon, who I absolutely love, said this: it's not your job to defend the Duggar family, so stop defending men who allow abuse to happen. Stop defending Bill Gothard. I have witnessed firsthand the disaster that came upon the families that followed the IBLP while growing up in Arkansas. It is just so sad and heartbreaking for you to continue to defend the Duggar family, and for you to continue to defend the Duggar family is wrong. I'm so sorry that you married your daughter off so young so you could be part of the family. The hurt and the damage caused by the family is terrible. Thank you, Brandon. I love Brandon. He and his boyfriend or his fiance or his husband, they watch me all the time. And I agree with you, Brandon. When they were talking about how, in another comment, someone left a comment about how, James was basically lying and that, that's not what was said in the documentary. That's not what Jill's been talking about. This is what she said. I love that you talk like you were there. Why would you believe Jill and not James? If James interviewed with Amazon and wrote a book, would you then believe him? So she seems to suggest that the only reason why people believe Jill is because she interviewed with Amazon and she wrote a book. No, people believe Jill because Jill left the family. Jill has an estranged relationship with the family. Jill has records and contracts that prove what she said. Jill has adequately and meticulously shared the details. Her husband is a lawyer and would never lie about something like that. They have been documenting the estrangement with her parents for years, and it's obvious to anyone that has a brain that everything that happened is verifiably true. There are court records to prove what Jim Bob did with the Chad Gallagher situation. There are court records to prove, and a judge wrote into a court order that their parents did not report him properly, and for whatever reason, they decided they were going to take care of it, and they failed. They didn't report it. Neither did you, Hilary. Neither did Rob. Why didn't you report it? Oh, you're just part of the cover-up. I think you need to just keep your mouth shut and stop defending horrible men. Seems like your husband might be one of them, since you're so amped up to defend terrible men. So are you saying that we should believe James, who's being coerced, manipulated, and told what to do by his dad, over a victim of Josh with verifiable proof, Hilary? Gross. You're canceled. Tell me what your thoughts are in the comments below. Bye, guys.